and our first speaker. And I hope her internet will be okay. She had already warned us where she is. The internet isn't very good, but we hope and all will be well. So I'd like to introduce Miss Leah Aywah Baraza. She is the Chief State Counsel at the Attorney General and Department of Justice in the Republic of Kenya. She's also an international trade law expert, currently deployed in the International Law Division, where her main duties touch on international relations, international trade, as well as regional integration. The reason why she's here with us today, and we're privileged to have her, is because she represented Kenya as the legal advisor in the African Continental Free Trade Area, that is the AfCFTA. She was also the legal advisor in the Common Market for East and Southern Africa, that is COMESA, together with the East African Community and the Southern African Development Community. So that is the umbrella organization consisting of 3 Africa's regional economic communities, and it consists of 26 member countries. So she has a wealth of experience in regards to international trade. She was also the legal advisor at the Kenya-UK Economic Partnership Agreement. Leah holds a Bachelor of Law degree and a Master's of International Relations in International Trade and Commerce Law from Macquarie University. And she has over 20 years post-admission experience that makes her an experienced lawyer with a demonstrated history of working in the legal service industry. Young as she looks, you can imagine the number of years she has gained. She's skilled in non-profit organizations, constitutional law, international law, legal assistance, and arbitration. And she also sits on the board of KEPROBA, which is the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency. And as she mentioned this, I would request her at some point to also talk about that, because SMEs will also benefit from information in regards to KEPROBA, especially if you're considering the export market. So without further much ado, please welcome Leah Aywah. Leah, take it over. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that colorful introduction. I hope I can be heard clearly. I'm trying to roam, so I'm using airtime. I hope it doesn't turn out, and I hope I'll be able to cover everything I need to. Okay, so as you've been told, yes, I was part of the team that negotiated the Africa Continental Area. Yes, I'm a state counsel, but here I'm giving my own views, and these are not views of the government, but just sharing knowledge that I've acquired and what I have done, my work that I've done. And just a correction, the COMESA EAC SADC, we had the tripartite free trade area. Tripartite means the 3 RECs, Regional Economic Cooperation bodies, that is COMESA, EAC, and SADC. So that was the umbrella body for before the AfCFTA came into being. Okay, so maybe you can just start perhaps with the first slide on the background. Okay, our outline, as you've seen, it's going to be the background, and then I'll give an overview of the AfCFTA, the scope, what it covers, what is provided for in there, and where we are right now in terms of negotiations, which is also the reason I'm here in Accra, and then what could be the benefits, and then what next. So just by way of background, I think you can see the African presidents had a vision from 2012 when they came up with this idea to try and unite Africa. So there's an action plan to boost inter-Africa trade, because we don't trade with each other. African countries don't trade with each other. We trade more with other countries and other continents, and we need to harness that to put together for the benefit of the continent. So they came up with a roadmap to establish the AfCFTA. At the time, we did not have the Africa on it. We just had the CFTA, because it was supposed to be a follow-up from the TFTA, the Tripartite Free Trade Area. which is made up of 26 countries. And then, of course, there's a flagship project of the Africa Agenda 2063, where when you look at the Africa Union documentation, you come across that document. And of course, all this is supposed to help with the growth of the socio-economic transformation on the continent. So in June 2015, I remember we were signing the TFTA, and then the presidents met and agreed that we need to kick off the CFTA. So that happened in Johannesburg that year, in 2015. 2017, they came and told us, no, we must fast track this thing. We need to have the agreement ready and signed by December 2017. Of course, that was not going to be feasible. And then, of course, it was expected that we would be borrowing on how far, what we call their key, how much integration and liberalization that had happened within the other regs, the regs that exist within the continent. Next slide. So just briefly, what are the main objectives? As you've seen, it's to create an environment that allows for free movement of goods and services and people on the continent, among all our 52 African Union member countries, to create a larger market, bigger market for all our goods. And I think if we did that, manufactured and sold among ourselves using our own resources, I think we all agree that would be quite something. And then, of course, also creating a large investment area. When we trade with ourselves, we'll also encourage investment in each of our countries. And then, of course, implementation of specific results, the challenges that are there, which NTBs are non-tariff barriers, sorry, I used abbreviations, non-tariff barriers, trade facilitation issues, and then we have, since we are all, like Kenya is a member of the COMESA and a member of PAC. So how do those organizations complement each other? What challenges are they giving that necessitated for us to come to do that? We must have one umbrella body for trading to encourage trading within the continent. Next slide. So just that was a glance. This is a glance at the Africa continental free trade area. Of course, to create one market, one single market for the African continent. You note we have 55 member states of the African Union. Out of those 55, 54 have signed and ratified. Not 54, 54 have signed. One country hasn't signed, that is Eritrea. And then I think as of last month, 43 had signed and ratified and deposited their instruments of ratification. In effect, now those are called state parties to this agreement. And then you can see the cumulative GDP on the continent, the total population. And trading is supposed to have started on 1st of January last year. But of course, we have some teething challenges, and part of the work that we're still doing here is to enable us trade, be able to trade comprehensively. Next slide. All right, so here we have the scope of the AfCFTA. What does it contain? So while we were negotiating, we agreed, we took cognizance of the fact that there are many areas. Trade is not just about goods. Trade is about services, goods and services, and also movement of persons. And at the same time now, when we come to these particular areas, there are other issues that come in between, fall under those to allow for a comprehensive trade agreement. So as you can see, we have under the agreement, so we have the framework agreement that states who are the parties, what our aspirations are in terms of the preamble, then what we are going to provide for, and everything in terms of goods, trading goods, trading services, dispute settlement, and all that. So we have the protocol on trading goods, and under that protocol, we have those issues that enable us to be able to trade. And those are covered under the annexes, which you can see the schedule of tariffs. That is the most important thing. The tariff concessions is what you're agreeing to how you're agreeing to charge the duty. So we are saying, an FTA eventually means you will have zero duty. So how are you going to scale down from whatever you're charging, because we also don't wake up and stop charging duty. We agreed to phase it down over a period of time. Then you have rules of origin. That again is that those are technical issues that allow you how you're going to calculate your duty based on where the product is made, the materials that are used to make this product, where have they been sourced? Are they sourced on the continent? Are they sourced outside the continent? That is a sticky issue. That is where we are still here in Accra at this moment, dealing with those issues which were part of this one of the sessions. Customs preparation and procedures. How do the goods get in? How are we making it easier for goods to move from whatever country they're coming from into the ports and into the hinterland? For those of us in ports, how is it facilitating the goods to be moved across the continent? Non-tariff barriers. Those are tariffs are duties. Non-tariff barriers are barriers that are not necessarily duties. Like if you now say all the water coming into the country has to come in green bottles. You see, we all know bottles are clear, but now when you introduce an issue like maybe changing the color, it becomes a non-tariff barrier. It means that somebody somewhere is going to have a challenge sourcing green bottles or putting a certain labeling that may not necessarily be easily available. And of course, it will hinder trading. Technical barriers to that I've mentioned. This is like technical barriers and sanitary measures. That is what our KEBS people do. The technical aspects. If you're going to say if products need to have certain chemicals or come without certain chemicals, that is where the technical barriers. Those are allowed under the WTO. WTO, the World Trade Organization, which is our umbrella organization that allows for trading in the world. And then, of course, transit, how goods moving from one end to the other, and trade remedies. Now, trade remedies is very key because it helps in instances where perhaps your market is being flooded by goods that are coming to distort your market. For instance, if we manufacture boots, and then suddenly we've got goods now coming in from Eritrea that are cheaper price than what would be the normal market price. The safeguard measures, that is that comes under trade remedies. So trade remedies, you've got countervailing measures, anti-dumping, and safeguards. So those are, say, mechanisms that SMEs or any traders, any exporter can use to try and rectify a situation. And then we've got the protocol of trading services, which is supposed to be, it was part of phase 2. Negotiations are still going on. We understand Kenyans are very well educated. We've got lots of services to offer. We need to be able to export, a lot of skills to offer. We need to be able to export our skills. How are we going to do that freely and without facing any challenges? And of course, that moves together with movement of persons. Of course, MFN, most of our nation exemptions, that is what is covered under the WTO. What is allowed, what is exempted, what can you allow, what can you exempt. Air transport services, a very technical, tricky area. Despite that fact, Africa is trying to come up with one airspace to cover for the whole continent to allow flights to move freely. It's a challenge because not many countries on the continent have airlines. And of course, also countries allowing you access into their airspace is a bit tricky. So it's still negotiations in progress. And then, of course, the priority sectors, as you'll see in other slides, Kenya has the priority sectors which we are trying to liberalize, which are ready to allow for other countries to also come and invest here as well, to invest in their country. And then the framework document and regulatory cooperation. Services is basically about regulations. How do you regulate? In terms of education, are you going to recognize, to have mutual recognition of say, the certificates coming from other countries? And then the protocol on rules and procedures on dispute settlements. Now, this one is very key. It stems off from an article in the main agreement, Article 20, that provides for dispute settlement. What will happen once you start trading and a misunderstanding arises out of implementation of this agreement? What then should we do? Then it gives us the processes on how to go about, first of all, to have consultations, list of good offices, discussions first before you decide, okay, now we can't agree anymore. It now becomes a dispute. So once it becomes a dispute, the same is referred to the dispute settlement body. The dispute settlement body is made up of the members of this agreement, the state parties of this agreement. And so at that point, again, now you choose. Are you going to go arbitration, or are you going to decide to have the matter settled by the dispute settlement body through panels? So which means the DSB sets up the panels that can hear your matter. We have an indicative list of members on that list who you can choose from to set up to hear your matter. And once it's heard, if you're still not satisfied, we have the appellate body, which is still not the process we are working on right now to set up the appellate body. Have members, how we're going to select the members, what are their terms of reference. So it's still a work in progress. So at least you can see the audience here should be able to know that in event something goes awry when implementing or trading under the auspices of this agreement, there's this mechanism solution. Now, phase 2 is what covers now the areas in blue: the protocol on competition policy, intellectual property rights, e-commerce, and investment. These are very key issues. Competition, of course, helps in guarding the small businesses, yeah? So that now we're not having undue, maybe not use the word undue competition, but healthy competition, so that you don't have other bigger corporations crowding out the smaller agencies or smaller companies. Intellectual property, what you're inventing or creating in your country, how do you protect it? Well, of course, intellectual property goes back down to the individual or the person or the agency or the institution that is creating a service or a good. Protocol and investment, how are we going to be allowed to invest on the continent? Each country has its own investment policies. So we're trying to see how do we bring those together to work for the benefit of the continent, so that we are allowed to invest in each other's country. You must understand, on the continent right now, we are still very much protectionist, still guarding our borders so much, and that's why it's taken so long to sort of negotiate this agreement to get to where we are. And it's still a challenge, but we are hopeful that we are pushing through.
I think we've lost her. Leah is currently in Ghana, and I understand the network wasn't very stable. So as we are waiting for her to see if she'll be able to come back on, are there any questions so far from the audience in regards to what she has covered so far? And was her sound clear? I struggled a little.
It was a bit on and off. I think after the comment, it became a little bit clearer, but after Sabina posted, but yeah, it wasn't very clear. But again, if there are any questions, please do not hesitate to ask as we wait for Leah to join us again.
All right. Thank you, Julia. I've picked some very key things about AfCFTA. And I think for me, I was really interested in knowing is how as an SME you're going to, I think it's important to understand what it's all about, as opposed to just me looking at how am I crossing my goods from one country to another, but just the overview of the as a nation, what it's all about. And then she's back. Yeah, glad to have you back.
Okay, so I think the next slide was on goods, trading goods, the status where we are. So I'll try and run through quickly so that at least I cover what I need to cover. So phase one work, most of the work was complete, except for these rules of origin, which is where we are stuck right now. The ambition was for us to have done at least 90% of the rules of origin. Right now we are at 87.7. No, we are still up to 96, but we are still haggling on those issues. The sticky issues was sugar, textiles, and automotive. So in the room right now, what is going on is on textiles. So hopefully things can be sorted within this before the end of the month. We are hoping to clear that before the end of the month. Rules of origin is quite a technical issue. For me as a lawyer, I only know very little about it. But we have persons in the Ministry of Trade whom I can introduce you to, and they can be able to give you further insights on the rules of origin. That would be enable you to sell your goods outside of this country. And even what you to understand, why does it have to be charged that kind of duty on that amount? And then trading services, I think we'll see in the next slide. Trading services is basically about your commitments. What are you committing to? Right? What are you going to liberalize? Are you going to allow persons to come in to offer the particular services? Are you going to allow persons to offer services from wherever they are? Those are the kind of issues that now are discussed under the trading services. So as you can see, the key one for Kenya is it's green, tourism and travel-related services. Tourism is key for us, but we also have the business services, communication services, financial services. Communication, we have our Safaricom that will be trying to get out of the country to across the continent, financial services and transportation. Those are the key areas that we decided to focus on. Each country is asked to pick 5 key sectors that they want to start liberalizing, so that as we move forward deeper into integration, we will keep adding sectors bit by bit. So first, you can see there are 46 initiatives.
Okay, Leah, you're frozen. Okay. Her network is really giving her a challenge. And I think at this point, as a nation, we need to appreciate our network. Yeah? I think she's back. You're muted. Unmute, Leah, please.
Yes. I've unmuted.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes. As you're saying, appreciate your network. In Kenya, we do not have those issues. And even the rest of the delegates, when they come to Nairobi, they're quite happy with it. We did to host a secretariat that we lost, but right now they're all regretting why they voted for Ghana. Okay. So we are still on the bilateral stage. We are still at the bilateral stage in terms of exchanging our offers, because you look at whatever country you're focusing on. What are you ready to take there, or what are you ready to receive in terms of the sectors that are put there? Okay. Next slide before I go off again. Okay, it takes forever to load there. So I can just proceed. The next slide basically just covers what is in trading services. I mean, what is in phase 2? As I had said earlier, it is investment, competition policy. So the week, at the end of the month, once we finish rules, competition policy will be on. So we have meetings between now until September, because the president gave us a directive to finish the work by September, because we want to be able to say we are fully implementing the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. E-commerce work has yet to begin, and so is protocol on women and youth. It is work that I think they're still setting up the frameworks, so I think that will come later on. Next slide. So the next slide is on key milestones. Key milestones, of course, the duty settlement body, we have worked very hard to be operational as the same. The PSP was established. Of course, once you've done signed the agreement, you now go back. What do you need to set up with the agreement? So DSP is one of the bodies that we needed to set up, and that process is done. So now we have appointed the appellate body, been selected the members of the appellate body. I don't know if any of you might have heard, we have a challenge at the WTO, where the members, the appellate body members, all retired, and appointment of others have become a problem as the bigger countries are vetoing the new members that have been proposed. But at least now it's been rectified. So then we have the Pan-African payment system. You realize that right now when you buy goods from a different country, you pay in dollars. And we are saying on the African continent, dollars is not our currency. We have a different countries, different currencies. So this system was, prepared by what bank it is, African Bank, to allow for us for seamless trading and to be able to pay with our own currency, so that we don't have the challenges of exchange rates again with dollars, the other foreign currencies, and bringing a lot of complications. So this has been launched, but it's still they're still finalizing in terms of the actual workings of it. And then the adjustment facility, of course, an adjustment facility is important because you realize most countries generate income from taxes that we charge the Libyan goods. So once you're saying let's liberalize and remove those taxes, what happens then? Yeah. So as you can see, it's a mechanism for the member states to be able to actually be able to push on themselves and once you implement what happens then. I know COMESA had a very successful one. Of course, it was funded by the EU in part to allow for countries to be able to sustain themselves, like budget support and project support, project implementation financing. Kenya has been quite a beneficiary, it's benefited quite a bit of budget support. So you're given some money to fill the gap that the taxes would have covered, the budget gap that was covered. Next slide. So, So just broadly, because you'll see in the next slide, I've tried to give a bit more detail in terms of these benefits to SMEs or to the continent at large. Enhancing this trade is projected to double the economic and social gains of the continent. Yeah. I think once you trade yourselves, it means our resources and our wealth is circulated again. So of course we'll be better off. Doubling it into Africa trade. Okay, it says my internet is shaky, but I hope I can be heard. Maybe I can turn off my video to see if it can. Okay. Doubling it into Africa trade through substantial tariff reductions, which will promote manufacturing. And of course, manufacturing is part of the Big Four agenda. We export mainly to our ESC partners and COMESA region, but we want to export, especially here in West Africa. I can tell you we do not have milk, we do not have green vegetables, and those are things that we have in abundance on the other side of the continent. So how do we get those goods here? And once we do that, you see, it will be a resource for us to be getting revenue from them while they get at least the all needed dairy and vegetables. Simplification of custom procedures. The reason why we are negotiating this 12 facilitation. Once you have this, the process is simplified, then this will encourage interregional trade. The reason why we don't trade a lot is because our processes are very different. And like I said, countries are still very protectionist. We want to hold on to what we think is good for us, but in the process, we don't realize that we are stifling our own growth. And then, of course, all this will attract long-term investment within the continent, and of course, attract other countries to come and invest, and other countries come and invest on the continent. Next slide. So I think I was trying to capture a bit of the benefits to the SMEs, but I've seen, I think it's a discussion to come. So it's just a detail of what I've just said. Of course, the market, the wider economic space, creating a bigger market for our goods and services and movement of persons. Of course, you also realize there are countries that are still very strict in terms of who is coming in. So we try to separate, to differentiate movement of persons and movement of business persons, so that we attach your movement to the business, and then you can leave the movement of persons perhaps to the tourism side. Of course, which again, you can't lock out if you want tourists to visit your country. And then, of course, it will play a AfCFTA leading role in the, especially for the private sector, in providing opportunities for economies of scale and access to cheaper raw materials. Economies of scale, when we are all working together, if many of us working together especially in the, like, say, sourcing for raw materials, you realize we import like cotton. We import a lot of cotton from China, and yet Mauritius grows cotton, but they use it for export. The same way they grow sugarcane and they export all the sugar they produce. So how can we use our own raw materials on the continent, which is something called cumulation? How do we use all our raw materials on the continent to manufacture on the continent and sell on the continent, and then eventually export to other countries? So this is why the AfCFTA is coming in to at least help us to be able to do that. And then the next slide is, of course, we are looking at promoting industrial development through diversification of the regional value chain development. Yeah. But right now, you find our value chain, first of all, I always say it's not there, or you're limited to what you have in your own country. So you need to look further out, yeah, out of your own borders. What can you get there to enhance what it is you're developing here? And in terms of food, where it says there, cultural development and food security. We import a lot, but we also encouraging, we are looking at hoping that whatever we're importing will not necessarily kill our own industries here, or will not be to our own detriment. So we should be able to reduce the rate of the protection on trade on agricultural produce among SMEs across the country. I think you've seen the challenge sometimes we've had with our neighbors when lots of their goods come in, and then we say there's a flooding of their goods here, and it becomes a challenge for us. We should be able now to trade in such a way that whatever is coming in, whatever is going out, is not to the detriment of either party. And then the next slide is to build efficient regional supply chains. I think that cannot be overemphasized, and encourage intra-industry trade. So we cannot overemphasize that. Private sector and SMEs will also benefit through implementation of trade facilitation measures to boost speed and reduce cost of customs procedures. You realize once you have trade facilitation, the processes are simple. It means your goods can move faster. At least under EAC, we have really tried to have the processes simplified. So nowadays, the goods coming from Mombasa to Malaba or Mombasa to Busia is not. It doesn't take as much time as it used to, and then they're allowed to pay.
Okay, we lost her again.
Yeah, seems we lost her.
Okay, she must. Okay, is really struggling with that.
I think I was done. So yes, I think I was on. Yeah. Hello.
We can hear you, Leah.
Yeah, you.
Okay. I was left to just one point to say innovation. I think, yes. The last point, just going to say the last point there, which is promotion of innovation and enterprise through protection of intellectual property rights of the SMEs. I think once you know that there's a market out there, whatever you innovate, whatever you're able to come up with, you're sure of being able to sell the same. And whatever you come up with will be protected under IP rights. Now, maybe to just add on to that a bit, as Caroline had mentioned, I serve on the board, I sit on the board of the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, which is the agency that made the shirt that I'm wearing. It's a shirt it's an agency whose main objective is export. And we take part in many of these export exhibitions or expos in the world, whatever is happening out there, to try and showcase Kenya and all that. So we are also giving information to anyone, even an individual that would like to export. Where if you should need to make any inquiries, you can visit our offices at Anniversary Towers, 16th floor. And you'll be able to, or even on the website, if you just search the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, you'll be able to find information on where we are located. We provide information, as much information as you can, in terms of what you do require, what you need to look out for. Of course, you need to know where you're taking these goods, what is the market like, what is required, what are the requirements, because when you're exporting, you need to be able to fulfill the requirements of where you're taking the goods, not where you're coming from. And of course, if you're exporting, say, agricultural produce, you must comply with what is expected. What kind of pesticide did you use? How long did the item grow on the farm? That kind of thing. So we provide that kind of information and provide you with data if you need to find out whatever information that you require. Visit the offices on Anniversary Towers. You'll be able to get as much information as you can, or online. There's an online facility that you can be given information. Thank you very much. That was a marathon.